in?
Ted had some.
Oh, you had a bite?
I had some of everything. Oh, except for the candy
Got
stuff.
plenty of time.
Andy's good.
You.
Your budget committee.
Budget committee, mine.
And Mike Courier is in South Carolina, so I don't know if he's gonna be here
Oh, that looks good.
via Zoom.
Is he vacationing too, or obviously, or just?
I'm sure he's down there with grandkids.
Can't find my,
We don't have
link.
grandkids for,
Are there candles in there?
None?
There was no,
Let me know, I've got 3 of
Couldn't
them.
fit 'em.
it's kinda galling, now that we're on the mic.
no,
You have that link
they
to
did
that
sing though.
spreadsheet that you can
I
send.
just shared,
When they came in, I was working on a project and
I just said shared
Dawn
with
came in,
me,
she's like,
but
"Hey, can I just interrupt you for a minute? I said, "No."
that's, it wasn't,
She
no,
had an
actually,
irate customer at the
I
counter.
wanna see what the link was, or,
Yeah, just click
I said,
share here.
"Name?"
okay, go
They
for it.
didn't get his name, he's so upset. So I said, okay, I'll come out and talk to him.
Right.
I walk out and they're all sitting.
Nice. Much better than an
Dawn
irate
got
customer.
you.
Yeah, she got me good,
Yeah, it looks like
You'll
you're not
get
on the
used to
internet.
that.
Good.
You should check that.
because I was preparing what I was going
Yeah,
to say on my
looks
way
good.
out.
It's rich.
Blueberries.
Yeah.
Server error occurred. Reload browser.
There you go.
All right, Wi-Fi just died, he said, I don't know.
Yeah, no internet.
Well, it said
I was
first
right. I was right.
I don't know where the
I was like, I
chair
can't
is.
get there.
once you refresh.
No,
I just did.
No?
Okay,
Bill?
again.
Bill?
there you go.
that was you
Yeah.
last time.
Yep.
Is Lisa come?
Yeah, she said she would be here.
You notice I don't have any interest in being chair.
I don't blame you.
Oh, Zach?
He would have gotten his reminder.
So Dan, do you have internet?
Oh, I can't imagine. Yeah, no thanks.
I still have people trying to do things.
Thanks, Luis.
Hey, Lisa.
Okay, I found my link.
I got
This is our
connected.
final
Oh,
budget
okay.
session.
I found my link. It's the same link you have, I'm sure.
With
but-
departments and then we'll have one on the 17th.
Let's hope so at least.
But if I don't get internet, okay, I've got internet. I've got there.
It just came up.
That's when the next one is, the 17th?
We have one
Oh, it was soon.
tentatively scheduled then, but I think we're gonna need that.
How you doing, Ted?
Oh, yeah, I
Ted,
thought there
how-
was
how
one
you doing?
earlier, but I guess.
I'm doing well.
Back up and going.
Yeah. It happened to, last Monday was the day that, like, the day after I was like,
I was supposed to give you a
I was basically at my worst.
And then this is paid.
You guys would appreciate the fact I didn't come.
Yes. How long were you down for the count?
I started feeling a little better on Wednesday, but not great.
Right.
Good, just throw that package over here.
Which package?
The only package that
That one.
Boy.
you wanna open one too?
It's kind of a
It's kinda hard to unwrap, you wanna?
blueberry package over there.
What are those chocolate things?
I think it's hazelnut.
Yeah.
Well, you know, chocolate and hazelnut. Do you want a couple? They're small.
Not now.
A couple.
I just had cake.
Well, we here all night, so pace yourself.
Not all night, just to 8.
I was open 7. God.
Well, we have to get started. It's 5
we do.
o'clock.
Where is Zach?
I don't know, but he's late and he doesn't have a PhD, so we can start without him.
Okay, it's what time is it? 5:03.
503.
5:03.
I'm calling the meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
Indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Who was our first volunteer?
I got a paper towel in there.
the park.
Parks
Either
and Rec.
Parks or Rec. Which one would you like first?
Actually, Scott, do you
Oh,
have,
right.
E comes before R, sorry.
There you go.
So those of you that are looking at the sheet, you're on page 13, please. Actually 14, sorry, for Parks.
Let me just scroll there.
Line 595.
That's actually very helpful. All right.
okay, where am I? All right, what line?
595.
595. Or
Does that help?
It could,
600 if you just go by the left-hand column.
yep. Got 'em both.
All right.
So as you look down through the budget, I'm gonna just start to get everybody going. The 22-23 year is the first year that we actually split out parks, so that's why you're seeing nothing in those prior years. So as you look down through, you are looking at a 2.5% increase for their employees. And how many employees do you have? 4 employees, including yourself?
Yes.
So their budget for the 2022-2023 year, 733,000, I'm sorry, Parks, 298,664. Actually going down to 288,134.
What's that?
Would that happen?
That's because of a change in health insurance.
Okay.
That decreases that. And I think the other thing to keep in mind is remembering that the school pays back 72% of that budget, as you'll see in the past revenues of 228,446 for last year.
Yep.
Otherwise, Robert and I met the other day. He's kept the budget pretty much stable, as this was really his first year of participating in the budget and really getting to know and understand the different lines. And I think we had a good conversation about that, and so you have a better understanding of which each of those lines consist of.
Yes. Now that it slowed down a little bit, I have some time to review it.
Digest.
But no, it's basically, I think it's been pretty much the same as far as I understand. I never really knew anything about it because I never was in that position, so I never really said much. But I think keeping it the way it is fine. There's a few things, like the water sewer. We don't use water at the common right now or at the flower islands anymore. But I want to keep it that way because we might eventually try to add irrigation into the common. We're going to put a new water source. Just as you walk in, there's a curb stop. And when they do the road construction, I spoke with Water and Sewer, we're going to put a box there with a meter and a backflow preventer, and a way we can get water from there, because the water currently is underneath the Boy Scout, which is not, it's too dangerous for us to go in there anymore. It really shouldn't have been going in there anyways. And if it does leak, you have no idea that it's leaking because it's underground. So this will be a lot more accommodating to be able to water, to be able to get, anything else that we have to do. If we have to pressure wash the gazebo or whatever, things like that. That'll be more accessible for us, and then eventually look into putting some sort of an irrigation in there to water at night when, because as you know, it's pretty crowded there all the way up until Christmas parade. So there's not a lot you can really do, so at night would be the best time for that. So,
Will the bubbler work someday?
they do not. They do not.
Never will.
The what?
Probably not.
The bubbler.
Bubbler.
Is that a word?
There's 2
It is south of us, yeah.
Yeah,
do you
they
call it?
probably, unless there's a way to
A
hook
blur,
them
no.
up and through a different source, they probably won't work. It's just, you can't go in there. You have to crawl on your back to get underneath there where the water pipes are, which is underneath the Boy Scout.
It's, it's a very dangerous confined space that I would strongly recommend against anybody going in there. We don't have the proper equipment to go into that type of confined space safely.
The electrical service goes in that box too, right?
No,
Oh,
no,
okay.
there's nothing under there but water. Electrical service is around the exterior of the common.
Huh.
Which we just changed the panel on this end closest to the gazebo, closest to the town hall. And then it goes out and goes into different boxes around, which one side, on the gazebo side, we're gonna probably do something different. Just because all the power is, if you flip one switch, it shuts off the power to one whole side of the gazebo, everything. So you can't actually run just one outlet on the gazebo side. Because that timer box, that's why during the parade, we went and ran 200 feet of extension cord to the MC so he could be on his own line.
Okay.
And then we could just be at each timer box. And poor Larry had to run like 6 extension cords and pads and have people, so we're gonna look into fixing that and getting it so the MC should have his own power and then we won't have to have so many cords, be a little safer.
Do you
Just-
think,
oh, go ahead.
do you think there could be consideration for having some way to provide water for dogs? You know, it used to be the Boy Scout, but is there anything else that could be done?
I mean, you could put something off of that curb stop, but unless you take all that plumbing out from underneath the Boy Scout and put it up top.
Oh. You know, I was thinking something else.
I think moving
I-
forward,
yeah.
when the construction goes through, we'll be able to do that.
Yeah, and if where that curb stop is, it'll be, we can put something off from there, but as of right now, you would have to take every bit of that plumbing that's underneath that Boy Scout and move it up top to get access to water.
Yeah. You know, I was just thinking maybe not use the Boy Scout in the basin, but have something else.
And the water, I just talked to the Paul Connor who cleans the Boy Scout, and he really doesn't recommend there be water coming out of it because it will wear that off. And he even showed me the wear that's starting from where the water drips out of it. And that's a
Yeah.
historical monument. He said it would be awful if that water wore through that. And that's what gives you that green color in the patina, is that water coming out of there. But that's not the reason why it's off.
Yeah.
It's just, but that's a part of, having that there. But with that, where that curb stop is, there's always, we could put some sort of a water system there for them, yes.
That's what I was
And-
thinking.
Yeah, and that's, we already have the box, which we had purchased for the Flower Islands. And then I have the backflow preventer, and Gary from Water and Sewer is gonna work with us. We just gotta dig the hole, so it's gonna be fairly inexpensive to do everything. So we'll go off, we'll do something off of that.
Thanks.
Any other questions or concerns or comments with regards to the budget that's being presented?
None for me.
Okay.
He does have one other area of the budget that he takes care of. Starting on line 653. It's the only line in there, but, yeah, the band concert common and, I don't know, Friends of the Art, I don't think is yours, but,
And the
okay,
band concert's not mine.
okay. So the traffic islands, and the town common, $4,000 has been a consistent number that's been asked for. You just talk about, a little bit about what the 4,000 is used for.
It would be for repairs on the gazebo, if there had to be. Used to use it for spraying treatments for weeds and stuff, which we don't do anymore. But that also can go towards contracting somebody to come in and do a core aeration, do a slice, buy trees,
Fencing.
fencing, yep. We put up a lot of posts. Paint for the rails, we've had in the past people, the Boy Scouts painted them last time. Probably gonna need to do some repairs on the gazebo soon. So it would go towards that mostly.
So even though we only spent 2,300 in 21, 22? We'll be doing more than what we did in
I-
21, 22?
It's possible. I mean, depending on what comes up, I can't foresee that. It would be, I don't know for sure. At this point, I gotta see what we are able to do in there. There's a lot of things we'd like to do, it's just timing wise. There's a lot of people that use that, and it's tough for us to try to close it off. So, I don't know for sure how that's gonna work. It's, still in the process for me to figure out, now that I'm in control of it. You know, there's other things that we're gonna do, like I said, I don't know as far as the gazebo could need something. We gotta replace the stairs and the front railings on the stairs and paint. The roof seems to be pretty good, but I don't know. I mean, it could be, who knows? That could be money towards the irrigation system. It could be, top dressing, to try and build the soil up. Could be for trees, for, limbing, tree removal. Yeah, I can't really say for sure for 100%, until we really get, you know, into a point where we can start, you know, really concentrating on what we can do in there. We do a lot of things in-house. That's why we can keep a lot of stuff down. You know, we use a lot of things that we have compost that we create at the school that we use. We have machinery that we use from the school that we can be in the common using. So we do a lot of things on our, you know, that way, but there's some things we can't do. So it's possible. I can't really give you a yes or no answer. It's kind of a process thing.
Right, so we'll probably have a better idea next year.
Absolutely, yeah. When we can when we can figure out what we can and can't do. Like I said,
Right.
There's a lot of things I'd love to do, but if I shut one half of that common off to, you know, to bring the soil up or to do seeding or anything like that, it wouldn't work out very well. People are still going to be in it,
Sure.
you know, and then you're going to probably get complaints because one half is shut down, the other half is not. So it's hard. Like I wanted to, after the parade, like try to top dress it and seed it, because then after the parade, there really isn't anybody in the
Right.
common. But then you got snow, you got frost, it's hard. It'll be in time. We'll know exactly what, you know, we can and can't do in there.
I have a question about the fence. From time to time, people break off those granite posts. You have to buy new ones?
Nope.
What do you
We
do?
actually have used, we've used a bonding agent called PC7.
Really?
And just PC7 them together. What you can do is, and I think we've done in the past too, and I'm not 100% on this, but they can take the piece and drill it, and then put rebar in it and place it over. Because you're not going to replace that. You're never going to find a stone that's going to look anything like that. It's weathered. You put something new in there, you're going to know right off the bat. So we try to put them together the best we can.
I wondered how you dealt with that.
Yeah, that's, in the past, we've done the PC7, and it's held well. They aren't, when they do get hit, they do get pushed inside the sand. So we've driven posts in there to hold them up, just to keep them from leaning. But they're, you know, that's the only way we can really fix them. You could never, if you did replace that, it would look so out of place.
Yeah.
You know, those things are been outside and been weathered. You can't duplicate that. But they will adhere together. I don't know exactly which ones, but you'll see the gray around them, and that's the PC7. It's great stuff. It's like metal. We've used it for a bunch of different things.
Bonding.
Yep.
Wow.
We had
Okay.
one of our.
I'm gonna jump in. I think if you wanna know how, I think we probably should move it along
Well, I just wondered if he had to buy new ones.
so that we can get to everybody else.
Yeah, that's what we do to them.
You can replace them all, by the way, but
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
at some point.
And I don't know if there's a really good solution to the fence rails. I mean, they run into them pretty often.
Coming down off Highland Street.
Any other questions?
I don't have any.
Nope.
Nope.
Good.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too.
Good night.
You don't want it? You can have it.
Sure.
There you go. So recreation starts on line 567, please.
Hello.
Hello.
Lisa and Gimp. Good.
Yeah, I think everything was the same pretty much, not any big changes other than Ann suggested, for years we've been using Play to collect trip fees because it was an in and an out sort of a thing, and Play kind of was established back in the 80s to supplement the department and fundraise and come up with some supplies and that kind of thing that we couldn't do in the budget. So we were putting the trip fees in Play, and then we were writing checks out to, say, Whale's Tail and PSU Rink and beaches and bus passes and buses and all that. And Ann felt that, everything that goes through the town should be audited, and when you run it through Play, we do a report to the Attorney General's office, but we don't pay, $1,000 to have an auditor go through everything. We match it all up, and it's Play's kind of somewhat small. There was a time where a new program would show up and we'd run it through there, but again, just trying to use it mostly for kids who need coats or kids who need, want to do basketball and there's no support there, or buses were expensive this summer, so the board decided to have Play support the cost of the budget so that the town didn't have to incur the whole amount. So it's somewhat of a wash because it's going in, but the revenues will go up because you'll collect that money. Drawback to parents is that they're gonna have to front the money in, say, April and May, and that, we will definitely hear about that. Because before, they'd pay registration fees in April-ish, and then they'd have trip fees due every Monday. And that, parents would love that, because, maybe you have 2 children, so that's about a $1,300 expense-ish, $1,300 and change. And so parents would say, oh, great. Drawback for us is that on Mondays, we were dealing with money and collecting and parents and, not supervising children. I mean, obviously children are supervised, but there's times that you're just so focused on that piece that the trip is late, going to Wellington on Monday or something like that. Maybe you're late there Tuesday nights because you got to spend an hour chasing parents down who haven't paid, that kind of thing. And so they'll have to front the money. But having said that, we're going to somehow have parents pay online this year. We're not sure how yet because we will most likely have non-residents trying to register, and there is not a police sort of check and balance on the online system. We've reached out and they said that's hard to do, so we can reject when it tries to come through. We can reject it if we research and decide, oh, that's a Thornton kid or that's a Holderness student, something like that. But we'll have to figure that out. But if we can give parents, I think, an online option, then they don't, it might be somewhat of a wash. So the complaining of it, having to front all the money might kind of cancel itself out.
And you can work with them, it's, you'll find the best way that works for you and for those parents, I'm sure.
Yep.
And if we need to take payments in advance, and we'll talk about all that, but I think it will work better to make sure that everything is going through the rec department like
Right.
it should.
Right.
Lisa, in that Play account, does that provide scholarships to students or to?
A little bit,
Okay.
yeah, a little bit. I mean, DeCenzo's been very helpful with that. But sometimes it's like we didn't anticipate that we needed $500 in basketballs. They deflated or they weren't in good shape, they were cracked. So Play to the rescue, that kind of thing.
Sorry.
So that's what Play, that was the goal of Play. And then one of the things, I know, Ted, when you did your last report that we talked about in our August meeting that I just wanted to mention, is that we're also thinking about combining the Park and Rec board and the Play board, because the Play board's been very inactive all these years, and the Attorney General's office is like, we don't, as long as there's a board that is overseeing Play, we're fine with that. So we're kind of, remember we talked about that at the August meeting, and the Play members, the Park and Rec, the Park and Rec board seemed to be fine with overseeing an inactive board and making that theirs as well.
Yes, I do recall. Not in as much detail as you.
So,
What's the amount of funds that are in the play account?
probably like 8 now, 8 or 9,000.
Okay.
We were in the teens, 16, 17, but then COVID, it was like, whoosh, so. Because we had to get real creative with COVID and spent the last few summers with the summer program, we've had to spend more than what's in the budget for many, many reasons, strong ratios, spread out on the buses, the cost of the buses, all, was the biggest thing. And choosing certain places, being limited to go to certain places, what was safe, what was not safe, what was safe might have been more money.
Entrance fees increased, too.
Yeah, entrance fees, when COVID started to die, places like Whale's Tail, their fees went really high. We thought we just won't go. But then we kind of asked families and staff, and they were all kind of like, oh, that's the highlight of the week. That's the bargaining tool, Sam would say.
Yep.
Don't take the bargaining tool
Yep.
from me, And again, we don't have a community center, we don't have a pool, we don't have a beach. We have a school that a lot of construction is happening typically during the day. And the campus itself is kind of in the sun. So you have to watch yourself, because a lot of times we get spoken to from parents on sunburns, and we're, sunscreening them up every hour, but when you're in an open field in July, it's hard to not get the sun. So, but other than that, there's really, it's been great with the restructuring for us. I want to let you guys know and thank you for your support on that. I feel like Robert's getting real clarity on what his side of the world does, and we're getting clarity, and we're really focusing on less childcare and getting back to recreation programming. We will support and help the equation, but to be the solution it just kind of stops everything in the office, because that's somewhat of a beast to run, whether it's summer program or it's after school. There's a lot in running those two programs. Kelsey's been doing a lot of bus trips and some other activities too. That has been very well received. We went on the Cirque du Soleil, and that was a great trip. So
I think it's great, including all ages of
Yeah.
our population in the programs and the services that are provided. So kudos to you on that. And I know you've got plans to continue it. When we've met, we've talked about that. But I don't know if there's any specific questions for Lisa or Kelsey with regards to their budget.
Nothing specific.
All right, do you have an increase in the number of participants?
yes, we do. Yeah, we're definitely very busy and very sought after for many, many programs. After school, we have a wait list. We're trying to deal with that right now. We have college students, but I have to watch the staff and not overwhelm them, because then, at the end of the day, they can say that the numbers are too high. So we're trying to be safe, but still service as many as we can. Summer program, that's just, the wait list of residents is long. But
How quickly
again,
did your positions fill last year with your summer program?
hour and a half.
Hour and a half.
What would it take to add more kids?
More staff and more money in the budget. Because if you look at our budget, if it's September and October, you're like, whoa, Park and Rec is at, a huge, the summer program is huge to us. So that kind of, a couple of times, we're like 63%, or Robert's, more at 50 because it's been 6 months, but it's summer camp, it's summer camp. It's that's a good 30 grand right there. And they want it and they love it, and it's becoming more and more of a challenge to run because of safety and water and kids watching kids, because that's virtually what it is kids watching kids. So sometimes their decision is not quite what Kelsey and I would do, and they can get very defensive. So it's just like prickly, how do you encourage them? Because that's the other thing I find with especially like middle school and high school students, they get very, I'm in trouble, and it's like, no, just let's do it this way, or They're learning, yeah, they're
Do you,
learning.
do you have a Red Cross swimming program?
No, and we did with PSU in the college pools, but we can't seem to get in. So I did say to Scott at one point, I need
That's
some help.
important.
Huge. Swimming is huge, and it's a big moneymaker, which is great because revenues are important. So it's not that I would say to you guys, I need 30,000 and you're not going to make anything. I need 30,000 and you'd probably make 50. And children are around waters, and parents are begging us for a swim program. Begging us.
What time of year would you do that, Lisa? Is there,
Spring, summer, fall.
Year round.
Yeah,
Yeah, year
probably could
round.
fill year round.
Yeah. I mean, for college, it might be better
I
at
think it's vital.
summer and winter break. You have better access at your pool.
No, thank you for saying that. That's probably one of the.
I'm meeting with Marlin monthly, and I will bring this up to him. They may be willing to put an MOU in place with us for the use of the pool. But let me check with him and I'll follow up.
Peter Coffrin back in the day, he was giving me a key. I mean, come, use. But all of a sudden, we were just told we couldn't use it anymore, and I don't know. I don't really
Was
know.
that COVID, though?
It was even
You
before
have
that.
the magic wand.
It was even before that. It's probably the one program that rec departments are responsible for and run across the world,
I'm with you.
in the country, the world, and it's one we just can't seem. And they built that new hotel near McDonald's, and Rosanna Shumsky, who works for us. At the time, she's like, I'm going to that hotel, and I'm going to see if we can get an MOU and use the pool. And she came back, the powers to be said no, because she has children and she wants to. She wants
Now,
them to learn how to
do you have
swim.
lifeguards that you would take with you, or would you depend on, you have lifeguards?
Yes, we do all the
Perfect.
training
Okay.
in-house. We have all that certification we can make.
I will
happen.
follow up on that.
Okay, great.
So I'm going to keep going with recreation. The next item that Lisa and Kelsey are responsible for are your patriotic purposes. They just took those over this year. I understand that they did run. They
Where's that at?
lines 647 and 648 on page 15.
Okay.
So not really looking for any additional funding than what they have in the past. You can see that we have, of course, 21-22 was a real odd year. So that's why the numbers were so down there. We've kind of taken over doing that projects, and they like to do that stuff. In the future,
Pretty consistent all the way across.
if we could just make sure that an email goes out to all selectmen
Yes.
with your other dignitaries that you have
Yeah.
coming, making sure that they're on that list, that's
Yeah.
all
Yeah, we reached out to Zach. So that was the,
Gonna-
yeah. we let him know
Share.
everything.
That's
Plus he
right,
was a
share.
speaker too.
Yeah, because we all like that, too. So, and I missed the last couple of them. And also to all the state legislators.
Yes.
They would
'Cause
like
some
to
of them
come as
came.
well.
Yeah, I did reach out to some.
There was some
Yeah.
that
Okay.
came here, yeah. Zach was the speaker, did a great job.
You did a
at
good
our-
job,
What I do?
Spoke.
everything.
Veterans Day.
Completely forget what day it was.
So the other item that they're responsible for, the band concerts, are you still going to be running that?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So
We'll
that's-
work with Robert on the facility, and then we'll work within the budget to choose so many concerts. We are concerned with South Main Street. Scott was gonna keep us posted on that. We do have Riverfront Park we could do it at, and many families love that location, so we're talking about doing that
The
as well.
amphitheater?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
And the budget's great for that.
all right.
It was good. Veterans Day, the budget was great for that. We have some savings.
Mm-hmm.
Memorial Day, the only issue is it's a $2,000 band, and that is high, but we can make it work, but it might be something Kelsey and I try to shop around a little bit and see. We can.
Absolutely. See what else is, they've had pretty much the same bands for a number of years because that's who services us, but you may find other bands that are out there, so. So that's all. Recreation.
And our revenue should be up next year we're getting creative with programming, and we're just looking at the prices we charge and some of the office people are offering programs, which is always a great way to offer programs because they're already getting paid. So it's kind of where we're saving money. You get a paycheck every week, so if they get creative with offering some programs, and like Kelsey's gonna do a baking club, and that looks like it'd be a pretty good revenue. So we're always trying to look at that as well, see how we can make that equation stronger for the department. 'Cause, you know, we don't wanna penny pinch people, and they already pay their taxes, but we're just trying to look at creative ways of.
Getting people out and about. Right, yeah.
That's it.
Good.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks for your support. Appreciate it.
Take care.
Alrighty. You can handle it.
Jack, do
Yeah,
you need a
can share it
printout
with
of
him if you
anything?
have to.
I have it digitally.
Can you see
Oh,
it?
he's got it
Yeah, I'm
all
good.
in-
Okay, all right.
Thank you, though.
So,
I don't have the agenda of who's
Joe.
up next or whoever, but
next one is just highways and streets,
Okay.
and then we're gonna just go
next?
back to page 1 and start over.
Next.
okay. Sounds good.
We haven't hit yet.
Who did you guys already hit tonight?
Recreation, Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec.
Yep,
That's it. Okay.
That's it so far.
Thank you.
So Joe is here for a 5:30 appointment with the board. And, I'm sorry, I'm looking, what did we say, Scott, what page? 10.
Line 407.
There we go.
Yeah.
407.
Sitting back there hiding.
All right.
Hey, Joe.
Hey, Joe.
Scott and I had a brief conversation with Joe this afternoon, going through his budget, just making sure that making sure that we all understood what's being proposed. So the budget for the 22-23 year, $1,178,407. And for the 23-24 year, we're looking at $1,311,272 as recommended by the Budget Committee. He does have a full complement of staff now, which is good. 2.5% increase is being proposed. The first line that really looks like it jumps out a little bit is the summer highway contract services, line 418 and 419. Not significant changes. And most of the way as you go down through, sand and salt, or salt and calcium, I'm sorry. And then road construction seems to be the next.
Am I seeing that the regular wages are up 32,000?
Yes.
Is that raises or is that an additional position or what's the increase there?
I have all brand new help, and they came with a higher price to hire.
Price, that's right.
Okay, so that is just the increased price as we made adjustments.
No additional guys at this point,
Okay.
or positions, sorry.
And what was the explanation on the summer highway?
Just more, like, we get into doing more culverts and basins and like the catch basin service cleaners, and then sometimes we'll have to have, like this year we did some line striping,
Yep.
But we already did line striping in the beginning of the season. So after we did a whole bunch of paving, we had to come back and do some more line striping to compensate, which I couldn't coordinate them to get done at the same time. It just wasn't possible. I wasn't even sure about paving until it happened, so. So a lot of it's unforeseen things that come up.
Yep. And probably a little bit on higher wages there as well.
Yep. Yeah, the cost of projects, money to get things done.
Yeah, I mean, I can see multiple increases on cost of material, either heating fuel, diesel fuel, sand and gravel, across the board. There's a lot of increasing in that, which seems reasonable given what we've been seeing.
There seems to have been a kind of a precipitous jump in FICA on the highway. Almost, more than double. From somewhere around 22K to up to 47K. Line 445.
Well, you're going from, 42 to 47. Those are the additional increases for your employees that you're starting them out at a much higher rate. So your FICA is going to increase.
I imagine it would increase, but I just didn't imagine it would double.
It's going from 42 to 47. You got to look
The
at line
21,
D.
22 was the 22.
Oh,
You're
sorry.
looking the year before.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, he had a number of unfilled positions for some time.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, I extremely lucky to get a full crew.
Joe, can you talk about your road construction? I think that's a $20,000 increase right there from the 70 to the 90.
Yeah, so 70,000. I had scheduled to fix all the repairs that we do for like coal patching and just these areas that we have to keep hitting. So I put it all together, and it was just over 50,000 just to take care of those concerns, without even touching one single road. And so by the time I finally got the paving done for that, I had 20,000 left over, so I have an opportunity to pave the whole length of Broadway, and I have money in another fund for that, so we're offset with that. But just 70,000 just doesn't go very far. And with that extra jump, we'll be able to do like the maintaining part, like we have all these projects that we put in for capital and things like that, and we try to collect them year to year. So in the meantime, sometimes you have to spend money to just overlay some bad spots till you get to that point. And just the paving, I wouldn't say it quite doubled, but it was pretty close to what we normally pay for asphalt. So we didn't get as far as we wanted to this year, but we did get some priority stuff, so which helped.
So Joe, does some of that 20,000 go to some of that planned work that was in that road plan where you do the crack sealing and?
So our roads have been so bad for so long that I don't have a crack sealing program, but because now I'm starting to get enough money in the budget, I have a few roads that could use that. So between the road construction and like a summer service program, we're gonna try to tackle those things. So it's very possible that could be used in there for that.
I think, Ted, one thing that Joe and I've been meeting with the individual department heads and really coming up with strategic priorities on how their budgets will be spent and being able to implement that and monitor it. So Joe and I will be meeting on Thursday, and he'll come up with his strategic priorities, of which we'll review and go through to make sure we're seeing operational efficiencies and how the work is being done, how the work is being scheduled, and how it falls through at the end.
And that'll include some of that maintenance work
Yep.
as well in
That
that
is
plan.
correct. So if, you know, when you look here and it says road construction, that's a strategic priority, but under that strategic priority, what are the objectives in achieving under that? So we'll be going through that and developing that and coming up with a plan.
Right, and so part of that's like keeping the good roads good, right? Not letting them kind of fall into disrepair.
Absolutely.
Same thing with your sidewalks, Joe?
I was just going to say, same thing with the sidewalks. And I was going to ask about the sidewalks. In 2021, it looks like we spent less than 5,000. And then this year, we're working with a budget of 20,000. Did we spend closer to that 20? How are we doing in terms of spend off that this
20,000
year?
hasn't been spent yet, because
Happen in spring or?
spring.
Yeah, okay.
So there's slated that partial money right there, well, that amount plus more is going towards Broadway. My goal is to pave all of the sidewalk from Broadway one end to the other. That's like a high traffic street where they cross over for the school. And it's kind of the beginning of the sidewalks on that side of town. And the college side is in fair shape, so our plan is to work our way downhill towards the hospital
Yep.
and just keep, and there's a lot of traffic on that side, but where they do walk, like on Highland Street, that sidewalk's not horrible.
Yep.
Plus, there's money slated for that later.
Yeah, I was going to say, Highland's probably got a couple of bad spots that if we got out in front of that sidewalk might survive a bit longer.
Yeah, on Highland, we have a project coming up where it's all gonna get ripped up and replaced.
Okay. So they're, part of that big repaving project on Highland is going to include sidewalks? Okay. Good.
And that takes us from Reservoir down to Broadway.
Yep.
I have a question about Pleasant Street from Langdon to Keble.
Yeah, that's probably in the 90,000.
That's on the agenda?
So I have it all engineered, 'cause
Yeah.
that whole street's failed,
Yeah,
and I've been putting it off because we want to fix it,
do it right.
but I have too many projects ahead of me. So that one will probably just get like an overlay, because I'm probably looking at 4 to 5 years before we can
Oh.
fund that street.
Wow. So
Which
the
street is that?
pavement's gone.
Yeah.
Pleasant Street from Langdon to Keble,
Yeah.
which is the top of the hill.
Yeah, there's a
So
few.
you-
Emerson's the other one that's in terrible shape.
You're gonna put, I mean, Emerson's bad, but that section on Pleasant Street is horrible.
And really all the way up from Russell to
Yeah.
Langdon. But that will be, again, part of the strategic priorities on what we're going to do with those funds to make sure we have a
I
plan.
put a price in.
Well,
from
some
the
of
paving.
those roads that need full are on the CIP and ordered on there as well.
I put a quote out to a paving company and we went and looked at it, marked it all out, and he ghosted me right at the end of the season. I haven't seen him. So
That's frustrating.
I'll see him in the spring.
So the next item for Joe, unless there's any changes the board wants to make there, we're gonna keep going.
So the overall increase that we're looking at here is 120,000?
From 1.178 to 1.311.
Yeah, 130.
Next item that kind of falls within Joe's budget, but really isn't Joe's budget. That's where it's always been, so is the street lighting. So we actually took that from 62 down to 60, thinking that we could do better, but it makes me a little nervous with the changes that we're going through with the overall pricing and increases that we're seeing.
It may go lower though. That's what, the co-op is saying as far as their change of wattage lamps, they,
Yep.
and also
So,
eliminating quite a few.
all right, we only, the only thing that we took out was 2,000 there, but we do know that there are a few places, I sent you an email this
I
morning.
got that today.
Yep.
So we had the police department do an evaluation of the street lights on the Main Street and Highland
Right.
Street.
Yeah.
Currently, we have about 14 lights that are completely out. So I know in the past, we've used,
Bert Sutcliffe?
Bert Sutcliffe to replace those. So when we are in touch with him, we'll ask him for an evaluation of what bulbs should go in there, what is more, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I think the co-ops already have done that, and the Energy Commission, pretty much got a quote, or working with Bill. Skip.
And then I met with Marlon today from Plymouth State University, and they're willing to contribute to the project with regards to Highland Street, with regards to down by the Enterprise Center, with regards to down here on the Main Street. So once we get that full evaluation done, we'll come back again and be able to make a presentation on what the solution will be for that.
How are we doing on that, on spend out of that line item for streetlights this year?
I'm sorry, I didn't bring my budget with me,
Okay.
Zach, but I would say we're still doing okay, but we're still paying like 7 cents per kilowatt hour. We're gonna be paying
11.
11. So, but with the potential savings, we spent 54,000 in 21-22. So we can say that hopefully we are still right within that ballpark. Even reducing that by a
We
couple
would see
thousand.
some additional savings with the Next Era Energy Services contract as well,
Right.
which
Open.
we should be in the final stages of that tomorrow after all the accounts have been added and we've gotten the accurate pricing back from Next Era Energy, so we should be ready to.
But that's not going to reduce our costs.
It will reduce
No,
it by the cost by kilowatt.
No, because
No,
we're
it's
going,
going
we're
from
at 7
7 to
cents, we're going to
11.
go to
Sorry,
11.
what's that?
Going from 7 cents per kilowatt to 11.
He recalculated lower than that today.
Oh, he did today? Oh, okay. I didn't know
So
that.
I'm not sure, I'm waiting for everything to be added in and then we'll have a definite price.
I mean, cheaper's better. It seems unlikely we'll get down to 7, though.
I don't think it will be down that low, but it will be lower than what Constellation was charging us. Or is currently
Or it's
charging.
currently charged.
Yeah,
But
right.
Constellation's giving us a bad price right now because
Right.
we're in a transition, right?
So even though we'll be adding more streetlights, we still think we'll go down?
I think it won't go up a lot because of the type of light we're gonna put in there versus what's in there today. And the usage of that bulb.
But we're adding new
I would leave
poles,
it.
right? I mean, we'll be adding new.
We may not have to use posts, but the university is willing to let us use buildings. To
So even
put,
by the crossing?
crossing here would probably be a solar light.
Okay,
That'd be on a post, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
gotcha.
So our initial thought was that we could lower that by 2,000, and I would just ask the board just to consider leaving it there for now, and if we find something different,
Dicey.
it's your public hearing, we could change it. But,
In more than one way.
so the other item for highway are really all capital items, and you haven't gone through any capital items yet. We're gonna go through those by the end of tonight. So I didn't know if you wanted to speak directly to Joe about capital items, or just wait until we do them all at once.
How would the board prefer to
Will
handle
we
all
need
of that?
Joe's input?
Yes.
So
I'm
then,
here if you have any questions.
so while he's here, should we go through it?
Do you want to
Sure.
skip to capital?
Sure.
Yeah.
So capital starts on line 683, page 16. The first item for Joe is line 685, which encompasses Russell Street, or a portion thereof, and New Hebron Road. Total for that line is $550,015.
Up from 125.
Up from 125, yes. And those were it sort of follows the CIP, in another way it doesn't. So but these are the two roads that are being recommended by the Capital Improvement Committee for the 23-24 year.
Wasn't New Haven pretty much, kind of like spoken for last year? Was still funds?
So we keep telling them that we're gonna do New Hebron, and we haven't got there. We ended up finishing a two-phase on Bartlett Road. So, I was in a push to try to at least give them something on New Hebron. And so there's one section that I needed to do some engineering, and I have engineering money. The guy's gonna look at it shortly. And then he's gonna put it together, and I think I can work within that 250,000 to complete that section of road. And then, so the rest of that road is basically just culverts and grinding and paving, which is, I won't need any engineering. So that's why I picked this section, because it's the worst section and I have to raise the road. So that was, it will put me in a good place. So like years when I want to just do some paving, we can do the culverts within our culvert budget, and then if we want to pave and try to connect to that section that we're going to engineer. So I have a plan to.
So why doesn't it follow the CIP program?
At one point, the CIP also had Pleasant Street in here.
Okay. So in that order, though, Russell and New Hebron.
Yes, these were the two priorities that came out, I believe, either after discussions with Kathy, or these are the two priorities that we've selected.
So New Hebron, I've been promising him, so we're gonna try to do that. And then Russell Street. So part of the South Main Street project is from Pleasant and Russell down towards Warren. So I originally tried to connect the dots from Pleasant to go to Highland. And because all the drainage from that project went the other way, they had to save the money somewhere, they deleted it. So that section is failed, and we've done some culvert patching, and that hill is completely blown out. If you try to go up Russell Street by the library, you'll see that the hill's really bad shape. So that was, if we can connect those dots, then when you start up Russell Street, you'll be able to go that whole length without going up one small rough section and then getting onto a nice new section of road.
Gotcha.
That road gets heavy traffic.
Yes, it does.
Alrighty.
The next item is the crushed gravel. That was in the CIP for 25,000. Highway building repair.
Why is crushed gravel capital and not an operating expense?
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
Because it's something that you do that covers you for 4 or 5 years at a time.
Because each time I crush gravel, I can go 2 or 3 years or maybe 4 years before I need more, or it might take me that long to collect enough asphalt to crush. So,
Okay.
like this year, we had an influx of asphalt, so we might be able to crush some gravel versus waiting another year. So depending on the year, if we don't have a lot of material, then we can put a smaller amount in that capital just to get to a point where we can crush. So, as of right now, I think by the end of the season, possibly enough to crush this year.
Okay.
Highway building repair, maintenance, and replace, which is line 690. In the CIP, that is for replacement of 3 overhead doors and consideration of a ventilation system for that garage, where it is right now.
The ventilation being the, I mean, not that the overhead doors aren't important, but the ventilation being the real key there because it's not healthy or safe for your staff, right?
Yeah, when you start firing up all those trucks and trying to move them in and out, and then especially like if your mechanic's in there working, and like right now, the way my truck's parked, even with the doors closed, there's a door between and a breezeway between that and my office. That exhaust will end up still in my office. And it's between my secretary and I. That's not good, and that's just, let alone what goes on in the shop. If certain areas you can see where stuff's black, and
I mean, it's strongly recommended from a risk management perspective from our workers' comp carrier, as well as it is truly a health concern of the employees that are there.
What's the cost of that, Joe?
what's that?
What's the cost of the ventilation?
I have not looked into it yet. This was fairly new to me, and so I was going to probably hook up with the fire department because they have a system.
Feels like during the CIP process, the fire department told us like 60,000.
I believe so. That was, yep. And the other 25 was
But
for the
their
doors.
building's
The
probably
doors,
half
yeah.
the size of ours,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, I think they paid less than that, but I think 60 is what they told us they thought, based on their understanding, we would need.
Would that be incorporated with heating too? Would that be incorporated with heating?
Not that I
Typically, it's
know.
not,
No?
no.
No.
It's basically for the exhaust of the vehicles that are being started inside with a actually clip-on that goes onto the exhaust until the vehicle moves, then it unclips and backs up.
So at least if I put the money in that capital, if it's more, then I'll be in a better position as soon as I get the pricing to know where I'm at with it. And if it's less, then we can get it done, plus possibly get our doors put on, repaired, so.
The other item that we have is line 734, which is the RPM blower. 43,000 there, Joe?
Yep.
As recommended by the CAP.
That's a
What is that?
$150,000 piece of equipment.
What is it?
It's a blower for a loader to load snow,
Okay.
and I think it's like a 2003. Anyways, the last couple of years, we've dumped a lot of money into it, and so we're struggling to keep it going, because what happens is it sits 6 months out of the year. And so as with anything that sits, it just isn't good for it, but
It's a 2005 blower that he would be replacing.
so we're gonna try to buy some time, and then 2 budgets, we'll try to make it work.
Was that in the CIP?
Yes.
And spread over 2 budget cycles like that?
So you don't have a backup, right?
No.
Bummer.
Front end loader.
Yep, bucket loaders and
Yep.
The blower's much faster.
like this last storm, I had lined up the trucks to come in and blow snow, and we had enough to do it. but then it swapped over and it rained for 3 hours, and it all turned to big slop puddle. So,
Wow.
so these rain events really do a number on us.
Well, we got another one coming.
Right.
No, it's not gonna be snow first.
Right.
It's probably
Yeah,
gonna be
rain.
snow, rain, snow, then cold.
So the next item, 781 is the line, it's the very last line in the budget. It appears for some reason Emerson Street did get put in here, but it should not have. So the 250,000 that's in there should be taken out.
So is that not in the CIP?
It is not for that amount anyways.
Now, there's a sweeper too, right? We didn't talk about this.
Those are capital reserves.
Oh, okay.
Nope.
I also see 769.
Sorry. 769 is a capital, that's heavy equipment, that's money going into a savings. Part of that will be used for the sweeper, the blower. Part of it comes out of that line, and then the other part comes out of the material handling. So those are all funds that are going, those two funds are going into the capital reserve.
Right, but that's a new request, right?
No, those are already capital reserves that have been established for those purposes.
Right, but it's a new request to put $100,000 into that savings.
Yes. Yep, we didn't have anything in the 22-23 year, but we did in the prior year, and the CIP recommended putting money.
Recommended that we save this.
Yep.
So what is that 100,000 for?
They just haven't found one.
The sweeper is going to be 200,000, the blower's of 100,000, and we're only putting 100,000 away. So 2-year purchase.
Which blower is this?
This is the RPM. Half of it's here.
So half of it's here.
Yep.
Oh, excuse me. So this is not a 2-year project for the blower.
Between the three of them, it is. Between the two items, it is.
I'm not sure I'm following.
So we have a $200,000 sweeper, $100,000 blower, $300, 300,000. We have 100,000 we're going to put in savings, and we have 43,000 that we're going to raise and appropriate. Next year, we're going to purchase both of these pieces of equipment for another 150,000. You're only raising half of it this year coming and half the next year.
So the equipment will be replaced next year?
2 years. 2 years away, yep. $300,000 just for two pieces, yeah.
So
Crazy.
why are we saving half for both and then buying both in 2 years rather than one year, one the next?
As the CIP was looking through it, we were trying to determine to keep those numbers consistent. That's where they fell.
And also, I can buy enough time in the meantime to, so if it works for them, I can make it work for me to buy an extra year to get to that point.
And there is some value coming back from the old equipment, you said earlier, right?
Right, so once I get closer to purchasing them, the new ones, I will put a value on the old ones. Which will probably just cover the increase of what the machine's gonna be.
Anything else for
Joe?
Joe? Scott, are you good?
Yep.
So Emerson Street's not in the mix?
That is correct.
And so I'm reviewing what was in the CIP.
Mm-hmm.
So the roads we're doing are Pleasant and New Hebron.
That was,
Russell Street.
that was changed
Is that
to Russell and New Hebron.
Russell and New Hebron? So we're not doing Pleasant, and we're not saving any money for Emerson.
Correct.
So that pushes Pleasant off to next year.
24, 25, is that what you have now? Yep.
Which is okay, because I can't do Pleasant until we have Russell completed. So, we're gonna be another year here.
Did you
This
say
whole
you were
next
gonna
season.
overlay Pleasant
The worst section of it, yes.
this year, next year?
Hopefully this year,
Not 2022, though.
No,
2020.
23, 24.
Yeah.
And so there's been some sort of update. I'm just trying to follow the CIP
Okay.
because the sweeper doesn't have any money in the CIP until next year. But somehow
That's what I'm seeing, is that the $200,000 is appropriated in 24-25 for the sweeper.
So that 100,000, I'm still unsure about why that's in that
I
line.
don't find $100,000 here in the CIP.
To go into capital reserve. I thought that they had made that amendment to try to stabilize the capital reserve, or actually the overall capital items.
Unless that's being listed as highway heavy equipment.
It is.
Okay, so it's not specific to the streets.
Well, so I see it in the budget, but I don't see it in the CIP.
The CIP, it is,
Where do you see it?
just one second.
I mean, I see the sweeper next year for 200. But it's a single line item, it's not split.
Not, okay.
Yeah, it's a single line item in 24-25 of the $200,000. That's what I see.
Right.
But in the capital improvement, there's 100, or the capital,
Heavy equipment.
In the
it's the
proposed budget.
$100,000, which they don't coincide.
Right.
We'll pull that 100 out and put the 100 into next year.
That's what, I mean, given how much money we need to try to find to pull out of this budget, I would pull that and I would pull Emerson Street.
Right, which we
Well,
pulled
Emerson's not on it.
Emerson Street out of
Emerson's
the.
on
it
the-
is actually.
It's on the budget.
Shouldn't have been on
It's
here.
on the budget doc.
Engineering for Emerson.
I think
Okay. We're gonna pull that 100,000 when we get there. We're gonna make that 0. And I just pulled Emerson because that shouldn't have been on there either. Okay.
So is water and sewer lined up for Emerson Street, too?
As I'm getting closer, as I get closer to funding it, they're gonna try to coordinate with me. As of right now, I have no funding, so.
So bear in mind, we're also looking to go for a bond when we talk about roads. South Main Street project, we're looking at going for a $1.8 million bond. Just making sure the board is still on board, moving forward.
I guess it's a necessity.
It is a necessity.
make
The
the
rates
room
right
for
now
whatever,
are
yeah.
terrible, but we'll do the best that we can.
Yeah, that's an it is what it is situation.
All right, just wanted to
We
make sure
discussed
we're
that at the
still.
last board meeting and decided to proceed with it.
Okay.
So just for an awareness, we're going through some crazy money here, but these big ticket items, once they're behind me, the next item should get smaller as far as my road construction stuff.
That sounds very optimistic, Joe.
I know, we
You know what I
appreciate
mean?
that.
I mean,
Like one-ton trucks.
we're doing a lot of big, infrastructure projects, but once they're done, we can do smaller ones and try to, work back towards a realistic budget. I mean, but we're kind of faced in a position with water and sewer where we really need to make that happen. So we get through that, I think things will start getting better.
I thought we were targeting 400K per year because of the, road
We are.
maintenance thing, so.
We are. So, I mean, we've got more than that, actually,
Yeah,
Yeah.
because we've
almost
got
200,000 more.
even more than that, though, right? Because we've got both
Street.
Pleasant or the two roads that you're going to do, plus the 100,000 or 90,000 of maintenance, plus the bond work
Right,
for Main
yeah,
Street.
I didn't include Main
Yeah.
Street.
So it's a pretty big road year.
A lot of projects ahead of you, Joe.
I know.
Not to mention sidewalks. Not that the road
Yeah.
included that, but it gets in the mix
And Highland Street, maybe,
from the state.
it's not part of the budget because we've already got the money set aside, but
But it's in the mix.
it's huge projects going on.
When is Highland Street gonna be done? 23?
We don't know yet.
I'm gonna say 23 or 24.
Okay.
Any more questions for Joe? Anything else that people are concerned about from any of these?
I just want to say that I think Joe did a great job on paving.
Nice job.
There's a little money left that we're gonna try to do a few things in the spring, in this same budget before I start into my next budget, but it certainly came late, but it's trying to line up paving is not easy now.
You did some work on Loon Lake Road recently?
We've done some grading, and then just before snow flew there, we had a bunch of potholes. We went out and back dragged and tried to fix.
Neighbors were appreciative for sure.
Yeah. It was just before I,
That road is built over a wetland
yeah, but
in places.
still working on a grader. I need to sit down with somebody about that sometime. We just spent some time looking at them, but I don't really have any good answers, but I can give you an update sometime where we're at. Doesn't have to be tonight.
From Slate's Junction there, all the way out to the end, Gary Ladd, Brian Young, and I built that road. We didn't have any budget. We just did it. It wasn't much of a road there before that.
No wonder Joe's suffering with it now.
I know. Whose fault is it?
Don't get too close to the ditch.
Happy holidays.
I was like, wow, he just walked into that one.
Ah, nobody said
I was
a
like,
word.
no, I won't say
I'm an honest
I
man.
just
Yep.
We built that road, There
Yeah,
wasn't much
yeah.
of a road there before that.
So unless,
And I think
can we go back to executive?
Couldn't turn a fire truck around.
We need to start from the very beginning for the ones that we have not gone through.
You all set with me?
Yeah, we're so done with you.
So done with
The
you.
lowest budget operators.
Okay.
Thanks, Joe.
Take a cookie on your way out the door.
I'm good.
Take the whole box.
Have a good night.
Thanks, you
Good
too.
night, Joe.
All right, so back to executive.
Line one,
Thanks, Joe.
Line one.
executive.
The highlights here are,
Highlights is you have new staff being paid at a different amount. Benefit changes, that's pretty much going to be your changes throughout this budget. It's going from 421, 125 to 462, 784. There was a few changes that were made throughout as we could.
Channel 3 went up.
2.5%.
Channel 3's adding an additional person? Is that what I'm seeing here? Or a part-time person or something?
No, that's,
Going
that
53
employee
to
is,
65.
that employee is actually getting an increase in their salary. They do have a part-time staff now that works minimal hours. I think he's going to be working probably 10 to 12 hours a week on a scheduled basis.
So is that more than the percentage that we were giving the union?
More than the percentage of what?
That we agreed on in the union contract?
This is not the union this is.
I understand it's not the union contract.
Okay.
However, we typically set our standard raises for staff to equal.
Position when that employee was hired.
Was hired at a different rate?
He was hired at a different rate.
This is
He
not a
was-
raise that we're looking at here.
This is an adjustment for the person in that position.
An adjustment because we hired at a higher rate, not an
Correct.
adjustment for the person in the position.
Still 2.5 when we come down to the end. However, how we get to that end amount, the employee was hired at a higher rate. And once their 6-month probation is up, they also get an increase in the middle.
That is correct. 6 months was up on December 20th, tomorrow. So that increase that was agreed upon at his hiring date will be effective tomorrow, and then 2.5% increase with this budget.
In July, yep. I'm just gonna keep going unless
Okay.
Yeah,
you-
I was just,
Okay.
I was just checking, there's a few expenses, it just looks like we were spending more than we had, so that they've been adjusted. Office expenses, postage, notices, all those things are up, but it's because we've been spending more doing
We're
those
spending
things.
more than what we had in the budget. So,
Okay.
so we did go through election and registrations, so we'll leave that one. There was a couple changes that were made, I believe, and Scott and I will just run through those to make sure that we agree. And then we'll have a meetings.
What the thought is we had set aside January 17th as an additional meeting, and I think we'll need that date for the board and Ann and I to meet. So once we go through this entire budget and we're able to calculate where the savings are, where additional expenses are, but I think the time's going to take going through the CIP because Ann and I have some thoughts on how we can reduce that number, and then coming back to you on the 17th with everything that has been calculated and presenting that to you at that time in preparation of the January 23rd public hearing.
Okay.
And any changes that the board may make tonight or made at the last meeting, we want to make sure that we
Those
hit
are all
them
reflected.
And then you guys can say, yep, this is what we're going to the public hearing with, okay? So, finance administration, going from 373, 701 to 386, 687.
And I imagine
Three's
that's
in there,
large.
2.5, yep.
Always.
It's all salary
Yeah.
by the looks of
It
it.
is.
I guess there's $200 on office expenses, but
There is a difference in the contract service for information services with CCS. We met with CCS the other day, and we are in a contract with them to 2025. But we have looked at some advancement in security as well as training for our staff here. That will be included in that from a operational efficiency perspective. I think we'll see better security and measures in place than what we currently have today.
The other line in there that you're seeing is an increase is going to be your audit. We actually have to have a single audit because of the amount of federal funds that we're receiving. The EDA is 2.7 itself. Anything over 750,000 in a year requires you to have a single audit. So we put the additional funds in there as needed.
Okay.
A property appraisal. This is going from
70 to
70,000 to
70?
70.
No change.
No change there. The next one is going to be your contract services for your legal. We do have 40,000, 40,000 was the original request. We actually removed that down to 35. So we're going from 209,912 to 216,063. Most of that is going to be the increases for your employees and a change in the health insurance plan. The individual who's,
Looks like a new, is that a new
Litigation?
prosecutor
Yeah,
expense?
we do.
which one?
Not new?
Oh,
93.
they had, they've always expended money out of a line that had no money in it.
Oh, that's
So
Plan.
Which one's that in?
prosecutor's expense, the 2,500 that you see from the prior year,
Yep.
that covers for like computers for the prosecutor's office, office supplies. They really had no money.
Is he on
That's
police
one area.
payroll?
Why is that in this budget and not, not in police?
Thank you. That's one area that I want to address, that it really should be out of the police department budget as a separate department as prosecutor's office, and should come out of the town's legal contracted services, because there are no contracted services. We have employees doing the work.
Right,
So
yeah, it's
it
not
really,
contracted.
next year, my recommendation, it would be included in the police department budget.
Is there, why, if we're creating this new line item now, why wait till next year?
Because we're making additional changes next year as well. We'd like that to be the big change year,
Okay.
like fire and ambulance. We're doing a lot of changes next year. You're going to see, it's going to be a lot. And
I
it's,
want to, the other
are
thing is I
where we
want
are.
to
I
do
mean-
some health insurance line changes, is that there should be one line for health insurance because of HIPAA regulations and privacy. So we'll be looking at that as well. We'll be able to explain in an addendum of what coverages we have, but it's too easy to identify those that have coverage at the recycling center, those that have coverage at smaller.
Any small
what
department.
plans they're on, yeah.
So I want to break that out as well.
So we do have a lot of changes coming down, but we're so close to finishing this year's, we
Okay.
ask that we leave it if we can. You all right? Okay.
I don't love it, but I'm okay.
We love you.
It will be changed next year, so.
Yeah. So I'm going to keep going. The personnel administration, we actually took that out. Planning and zoning, you've already gone through. And I don't recall any changes. Anybody? I didn't see anything in there.
No, I don't.
No?
There was at least one. So it looks like we noted an increase on line 117. I don't remember the discussion from last time, but we have
Office expense,
select board said 15, put 15 on that line instead of 500.
1,500?
Mhm.
Okay.
And we also put 1,500 on the tax map update line 120.
Line 120, actually, the tax maps now are being paid out of line 87, Zach. There shouldn't be any money in that for the map updates, under planning and zoning.
Line 87. Okay, so it's coming out of property appraisal?
It is.
Okay.
'Cause it's, yep. So that was still a zero.
So then that should still be a zero. I'm just looking at the notes we had from
That's
last
okay.
time here.
I-
The other note I see we have is line 119. We recommended lowering that request to 500.
500,
Or by 500? To 500? No, by 500. So to 1,000,
1,000,
not 1,500.
okay. You guys remember anything else? No,
Zach's got the notes.
I know, he's good.
That's all I see.
Land use enforcement, 27,058. That's down significantly already. General government buildings, this is where if we have any additional repairs to any of the town buildings, this is pretty much, I would say this all gets used at town hall. The 78,000.
No increase though, is that? Oh, no, it is an increase of 16,000.
Because it overspent.
Yeah.
Right.
The furnace is, the AC in this system, as you probably realized, the entire building needs a good overhaul.
I think HVAC is on the capital improvement plan though.
I think it's listed at, we have 20,000 we put away for that.
Yeah, but I thought it was on the capital, I mean, we may have some in reserves, but I thought it was on the capital improvement plan to say town hall HVAC.
I'm not sure if it was this current year though, Zach, because.
No, I don't think it was this current year.
The entire buildings were, all of them were gonna be looked at, right?
Correct. We were going to do a building assessment first before we decided where to allocate that in the plan. Maybe at the very bottom in like the last set of,
What if?
we know we've got stuff to address, but we have no value for it yet.
It is in the last section as additional items that have been identified.
Yeah.
It's listed as HVAC systems in town buildings.
Yep.
And that, between the town buildings, the roofs, the contents, and computers, technology, carpet, and lighting, it's about a $650,000 expense of what I see here was listed at the time.
So this line item, though, for government buildings would be any anticipated maintenance work that we would need to do on this building.
Correct, from the generators to the whatever.
We really think it's going to go up that much?
Mm-hmm. The AC and the heating in this building, midwinter, is just awful. It just goes
It's either
Saturday
hot or
afternoon
cold.
and, yeah, Saturday afternoon, and you come in Monday morning and there's no heat in the building. Suddenly you're calling somebody out 8 o'clock in the morning to get here, and we're paying thousands of dollars consistently every year for our heating system here. And this is not something new. It's just something that hasn't been addressed as it should have been.
Isn't Scott's office like boiling hot usually? in the
Actually,
wintertime?
Scott turned down his heat.
You could turn it down?
I mean, when I first started in this second floor office out here, there's no heat at all. And we had them come in, and that was a huge expense last year just to get heat that
Into that room.
would circulate up into the second floor.
Yeah.
And then we have the split systems, which they work okay, but they're behind closed doors. So they're only good for that room. You know, that's a lot of money for that room.
Can we take that out? Do the records
I
care
don't
about
know.
heat and?
I don't think we've ever had had a full evaluation done of HVAC in this building,
Yeah.
which is really what needs to be done to find out what do we need to do
And
to efficiently and effectively heat this building and cool it at the same time,
your condensers for your ACs are in the third floor of the building up by the bell tower.
which cause a problem.
Maintenance, repairs,
Yeah.
leaks.
I mean, between the actual heating expense itself and the building repair, you know, we're spending, we're budgeting here $40,000.
What does the building get heated with now?
Oil. Oil and gas and the mini splits,
So, all of the above.
pretty much.
So having one system might be great.
Might be, yeah.
So,
Or you might find that putting mini splits in every room is the right solution because you could adjust the consumption for the use of the space.
Well, it's still one
But
solution.
having an expert come in and look at it would make a lot of sense.
it shows you where the leaks. Is that gonna be an issue with it? That's gonna be the records room?
We believe that we fix the leaks.
That's been taken care of.
I mean, we believe that's happened multiple times.
Well, we had somebody who really knew what he was doing.
We believe it's really, truly fixed.
We believe it.
I do.
Yeah.
Good.
I mean, the gentleman that went up there and fixed that pointed out several things that other contractors hadn't identified and was able to make all the repairs, not only in the bell tower and sealing that, but also in the ceiling in the gold room over here.
For a reasonable cost.
Absolutely.
All right, so general government buildings, and then we go on to cemeteries.
If we magically have money left over in that line at the end of the year, we ought to put it into whatever needs to happen in the basement of this place.
I would agree.
Cemeteries?
Mhm.
In the basement? No.
Oh, they shouldn't be in the basement.
I know.
That's dark.
It's,
Insurance not otherwise allocated, that is gonna be for your workers' comp, general liability. And what we budgeted for here is the max that we know that it can go up to. Advertising and regionals. Similar to nonprofits, but not really nonprofits, I guess. Planning commission, there's 6404 going from 6253.
Should we have the Chamber of Commerce line item here instead of out of the, I assume we just paid for that through the executive budget?
Actually, the Chamber of Commerce isn't even listed here, is it?
Not that it's a lot, I don't think, but,
500 if that.
which is similar to Historical Society or.
So
any
I
of the-
will put them, Lake Street, what's it called? Marianne. Central New Hampshire, thank
No,
you.
Amy will know.
Central New Hampshire Chamber of Commerce. $500.
Is that right, Amy?
It could be more. I think the municipalities pay more.
Off my head exactly what the rates are.
Let's
I would
figure
say
like that.
whatever the amount is,
It's not that much.
but
We'll put,
we either have it in the minutes for when we joined.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely, or I have it.
It is in the minutes from when we.
that's okay, she's just gonna let me know and we'll put that.
Thanks, Amy.
In the budget.
That's actually not here now.
So the next item is the police department budget. One change that we made on line 203
Yep,
was down to 115,000. Everybody agree with that?
yep.
Yep.
And that was the only change that was made, I see, as we go down through.
Yeah, change from the budget committee anyway.
Yes.
Yep. And so there's a couple notes about us agreeing with some stuff, but it's, as long as the budget committee numbers are what we're using.
Sorry, parking budget, we already went through that, 102,
$600.
600?
Yeah.
All right.
Want to get us a discount while you're,
I know.
You're here?
No.
You guys all-
No.
Hour, Zach.
You okay with
It's
adding
disappointing.
$600 to the budget for that? Yep.
yes.
Okay. So parking, dispatch, there was no change made by the board, and the resource officer, there was no change there.
The only annotations we had were about any of the additional staffing that they're requesting. We want to make sure that those are isolated as warrant articles and not rolled into the budget.
Okay.
Mean for dispatch? Or,
For police and dispatch?
For police and
Dispatcher
dispatch.
and one
Because there's
police
one
officer.
dispatcher, one police officer, right?
right?
Okay.
And I think that's going to be the same for fire when we get
Yep.
Okay.
there. Just consistently, let's just make sure those don't. That way.
Under the ambulance, I saw one change. Line 310 was changed from 4950 to 3950. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, and then we go on to, I'm just gonna keep going unless somebody wants me to stop.
Oh, we'll stop you if you
Going.
want
Good.
to.
Fire department. We are looking at changing line 340 from 149,790 to 141,971. All
That's
right?
what I have.
Okay.
I don't remember why. We didn't note why in at least in this sheet.
I know they have us
Remember why?
look at.
It's okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay. No, it's okay.
And then I had, the other change was for line 346.
Take it down to 3,950.
Yes, we are.
Yep.
And then, this is where I get a little confused here. So that's 27, so. Line 370, which is the hose. We're gonna take that down to 7150. Is that right, Scott? Is that what you had?
I had 6150. We were taking it down to 6150, but I'll have to check the emails I have.
Okay.
7150.
7150? Okay. And then the next line that we had to change, which was uniforms, I believe was on line 377.
Yep.
5860.
Yep.
So will come through with new numbers. Emergency management, did we talk about that at the last? Not at all, I don't think.
I don't think so.
I don't have any notes.
So that's actually going from this year's budget of $40,803 to $7,138.
How do we manage that?
Right.
Are you wearing
Scott
that?
left.
Yeah. I mean, effectively, that's
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
good point.
I was winking. You couldn't see it.
Yeah.
just need to eliminating positions. So it's very effective.
So highway department, we just went through that one. Street lighting, we've gone through that one. Airport. What you're seeing at the airport should be just the amendments, the 2.5% increase for the employee. And that's the only other
There's also some increases
wait a
for
minute.
supplies.
telephone expense.
Telephones. Why has the telephone at the airport gone from $450 budget item to $1,000 budget item?
He had a concern about the electric.
Yeah, that's
Should we
gonna
just
be
get
addressed,
Should we
but-
just get a cell phone for that location and
I
bolt
don't
it
know
to the
what's
counter?
going on out there.
I mean,
No,
who's paying $1,000 a year
Could it
for
be
a telephone?
something to do with the
The landline.
AWAS?
Yeah, the weather station. Yeah, and yeah, there's something wacky going on there.
I
but-
thought PSU paid for the phone line.
no, they pay it.
For the weather station, do they pay the electric bill? Part of it?
That's the only thing that uses any juice out there.
Yeah. Yeah, some
Besides
lights and
a
stuff,
a
but-
light.
Yeah, I mean, the good news is that we've been underspending on the electrical bill from what's budgeted pretty substantially.
Put a solar panel on the roof; it'll take care of it.
Okay.
Well, we kind of discussed that, except the FAA is going to have to approve that one.
Mhm.
I feel like someone needs to look into that telephone issue, but
We will look
We
at
don't
that
need to.
telephone issue.
we don't need to over-analyze.
That is $1,300 for a phone. It's a lot.
There is a phone there, huh?
Oh yeah, there is a phone. You can dial in to get the weather. at the
Does that
airport.
cost the town money?
I'm sure it does.
I'm sure.
It
I mean,
does, I think.
if the town owns the phone line, then yes, I'm sure. But I mean, it
It's
is
just
nothing
weird to think that it's
special.
$100 a month for that phone line.
It's nothing special. It's
Seems obnoxious.
an old. Well, it's probably not analog anymore, but there is nothing special.
Nothing special, no.
All right, so let us work on that a little bit, but right now we do have a number of 8512. Recycling,
And honestly, I would consider taking the budget line down for electricity. I don't know how to answer that, but given that in the prior completed fiscal year, we spent less than $1,000 against a budget line item of
1,600.
1,600.
Yeah.
you want to take that down to 1,000? 1,000? 1,000? 1,000? 1,000? 1,000? 1,000? 1,000? 1,000? 1,000? 1,000? 1,000? 1,000? 1,000? 1,000? 1,000? 1,000? 1,000? 1,000? 1,000? 1,000? 1,000? 1,000? 1,000? 1,000? 1,000? 1,000? 1,000? 1,000? 1,000? 1,000? 1,000? 1,000? 1,000? 1,000? 1,000? 1,000? 1,000? 1,000? 1,000? 1,000? 1,000? 1,000? 1,000? 1,000? 1,000? 1,000? 1,000? 1,000? 1,000? 1,000? 1,000? 1,000? 1,000? 1,000? 1,000? 1,000?
I mean, even if you took it down to 1,200, figuring that electric costs might be higher now,
Okay.
I don't know.
Still probably more
Or
than.
in the right direction anyway.
Okay. I'm sorry, I'm moving you right along.
No, please
Go,
do.
please do.
Recycling. So we did make one change on line 476, which is the recycling foreman. We took that down to 31,168.
Because of military leave?
No, because we,
It's being
we
double
have
counted.
somebody else budgeted elsewhere, we separated, so. So that will, of course, change some of the FICA Medicare retirement as we go through. Other sanitation, which is the Pemmy Baker solid waste, we talked about that, no change there. Health, 10,000. Pest control, that has increased to 7,150. We haven't seen an increase from the Humane Society in the 9.5 years I've been here, so it's not. So then we go on, we start with line 537 for your health agencies, and I'm just gonna do a quick rundown of what the Budget Committee is recommending.
This is the one that, the sheet we looked at today.
Yes.
So I think just to preempt that a little bit is, in speaking with Mark and Mike, we really talked a lot about the nonprofits, and they really focused a lot on children and elderly when they went through this and the recommendations that they made. So, sorry, Ann, for interrupting.
No, that's fine. So, line 538, which is the Pemmy Baker Community Health Agency, the request was for $23,171. The Budget Committee is recommending $15,570.
Which is
It's the
level
same
funded
amount
with
as last
prior
year.
year.
Funded, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, level funded. North Country Home Health and Hospice, they're recommending 0, which they have not been funded in the past. We don't really know who they are, but
Well, I guess they serviced a couple people or something like that.
Okay.
But it's outside of our district, per se, but.
okay. And then we have Lakes Region Mental Health. 7,500 is this year's. They're recommending, the Budget Committee's recommending 5,000.
They just put in that nice driveway and stuff.
Well, keeping in mind that their total exempt taxes is $482,000, so,
What?
because they're nonprofit.
That's
In other
their
That's their
Assessment.
assessed
Assessed
value,
value,
that's not their
tax.
taxes.
That they're not paying tax.
total exempt taxes is $482,900 based on their valuation.
So that's how much they're tax exempt? That's
That's
not,
what it says right here on this paper, if this is correct.
Maybe
I just didn't know if that was before the calculation. What other location do they have other than that
We
one?
have that whole condo now, the
The whole
whole.
condominium
yeah,
complex.
All 4 buildings or something.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Can't remember what the total valuation is, but it's right up there.
It makes
Actually, I
sense.
have a meeting
And,
with them.
and they're on your agenda, right?
Next week.
They're on the looks. That's
Mary
right.
Pritchard.
Okay.
Pritchard.
Yeah, you give us
desperate for money.
50 and we'll give you
I don't think so.
Scott, who are you meeting with?
Director needs to know.
Scott,
75,000.
Maybe we shouldn't give them anything.
Oh,
Scott, who are you meeting with?
Mary,
I don't know Mary, I don't.
she is the executive director for
Yeah,
Lexington
it-
Mental Health.
No. Maggie Pritchard.
Mike is the CEO, but Mary is the executive director.
Well, Maggie Pritchard is the executive director, but
of Lakes Region Mental Health.
Margaret Pritchard.
Maggie, whatever,
Maggie Margaret.
Maggie.
Does it help or hurt your negotiations for us to put pressure on that number?
I think the 5,000 is reasonable.
Okay.
So the next one is the admin for the welfare. This is the welfare director themselves. As you can see, the 2.5% increase there.
Yep.
So then we go on to the next set of intergovernmental welfare payments. Transport Central going from 1,000, the recommendation is 2,000 there. Grafton County,
Sweet.
Is it, why,
Interesting.
why do you have a different number than we have in our spreadsheet?
because those were the original numbers as requested, then the Budget Committee and Nonprofit Committee, who was the same.
There's a budget committee column that says
Right,
1,000.
but we just needed a number to plug in there to start with, and they hadn't finished the review yet.
Gotcha, so
That's
you've
why
got
yours-
updated numbers
I've
that
got
are not in the
updated numbers.
spreadsheet.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Grafton County Senior Citizens Council, they're recommending the same as the current year, 15,570. Tri-County Community Action, 7646 is this year's, 5,400 is what they're recommending for next year.
Okay.
Voices Against Violence, 4,000 down to 2,000. Red Cross, 2,000, remaining at 2,000. Pemmy Youth Center, 8,000 this year, 5,000 recommended next year.
Can I make a comment on that? So Parks and Rec changed, with the help of the Pemmy Youth Center, the number of students, the age of the students so Parks and Rec didn't have to take 9-year-olds anymore, so now they go to the youth center. So I just wanna let you guys know that we did change our licensing to help the Parks and Rec department so that we could take 9-year-olds at the youth center. So that's additional children.
How
that are
many?
gonna be going there. I don't know the number off the top of my head, but I don't know if you guys knew that, so I wanted to let you know that. And that was a collaboration and request from Parks and Rec.
I will say they're exempt from taxes of $7,537 a year.
The next organization is Katie, $8,300 this year, $5,000 is the recommendation for next year. CASA, $1,000, remaining at the $1,000. And the last one is the Pemmy Bridge House, $10,000 for 22-23, recommending $12,500.
So with that said, all of the requests that we received was $107,634. Last year, we paid out $80,586. This year, it would go down to $65,470, based on the evaluation from the Advisory Budget Committee.
Next item is the general assistance other vendors. We kept that at the 70,000.
What line is that?
It look 562.
62.
It looks like last year that was spent a whole lot under. Is that? Do we
Okay.
expect that to continue?
Actually, last year, we had some significant COVID money that came through that assisted.
So that offset, and that's why we spent less out of it.
Right. This year, that COVID money is basically gone at the end of this month.
It's gone, and Grafton County should receive another round of ARPA funds.
So
Don't know what that
So we shouldn't
amount
touch
is.
it. Leave it where it is.
Right.
that's one of the lines,
Let's
that
see.
and legal, that you have to pay no matter what.
Mhm.
So next one I have is recreation. 441,918 is what we spoke to them about earlier for total. Parks, 288,134.
Love seeing a budget go down.
Library, Scott and I had an opportunity to speak to the library trustees last week, and we spoke to them about that particular 810 account. And they understood what we were doing, and they were okay with it.
They support an improvement in the accounting principles.
They do. Yes, they do. So,
Good.
with that, 526,632. Patriotic purposes, 4,700. Other culture and recreation, 12,100.
Patriotic purposes, that Parks and Rec has no problem, because they took over managing those events now.
Yep.
So, but they'll just be able to access those funds. It's not a big
They
deal.
were happy with that, yep. They said they would be creative if they needed to for a band, for one of the band prices.
Okay.
Let's see, admin for Conservation Commission. That's actually down by $50. Care of trees, now we have a new tree warden in town.
Who's that?
Scott?
It's Scott.
So I've got some solutions on how we can
You're the
prevent.
tree warden?
I'm going to be the tree warden on providing some solutions on what we can do with the trees on the main street to make them live longer without being subject to the conditions of winter months.
I'll work as a consultant with you.
All right. There's a great article that I'll forward to you, Neil, from Burlington, Vermont, on potted trees. There's 14 species that can be potted and lay dormant through the winter. So they'd be put out in the summer or in the spring. They'd be taken out in the fall and stored up at Park and Rec, covered in burlap, and then put back in the streets in the spring. So as we lose trees, I think that's the solution we move forward with.
This line also covers any potential,
Limbing,
I'm sorry?
Limbing,
Yeah.
tree maintenance.
So it isn't just
Yeah.
purchase a tree, but okay.
It's a little of both. We increased that line item last year because there was some rule we discovered about trees risking safety, us being obligated or something like that.
Obligated if they're in the right of way, creating a safety risk to a
Yeah, so we
residential.
were worried we were going to have a bunch of those to deal with, which is why we increased it. I don't know if we've seen the expense, but
I don't know, but that's one thing on Joe's list, is to evaluation of the trees in the right of ways to make sure we don't have any dead trees, limbs falling that could damage people's property.
You go to select board training, and that's like one of the things they really kind of stress. We're
Trees.
liable for,
Yeah.
welfare and roads and trees.
and the crazy part, I mean, taking down a tree is shockingly expensive.
Yeah, it is.
You'll take that whole line item, taking one tree down.
All right, so debt service. So we have added in here a payment in anticipation of the solar array warrant article passing.
Yep.
And the South Main Street project passing. So if those don't pass, which we have to wait a whole hour at the meeting to wait, you may be able to amend this a little bit. At the meeting, you have to wait an hour for these two bonds to pass.
We can carry on business while
You
we're
can,
waiting.
but you can't adjust this until after that hour's up.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so keep that in mind. So you're, we budgeted, again, as I said, we budgeted for those two to pass. And then we get into capital land and improvements.
Do you have to wait the full hour to adjust the budget, or would you?
Well, we can't, I wouldn't adjust this unless you know whether or not those two passed.
Because you got to wait because it's a ballot. Do they have,
You have to do secret ballot.
So you put them up front.
Yep, they're right at the beginning, right after your zoning. Zoning has to be first, along with your officers. So they'll be top of the list. Okay?
sounds good.
Sounds great.
All right, so we go down through, Scott and I reviewed the capital land improvements today. We have $415,000 this year in capital land and improvements, looking to spend $761,015 next year. $550,000 of that 700 are those two roads that we talked about.
What are the prospects of having more taxable property in town? Next year?
You gonna annex Holderness or something?
I don't know, I was thinking maybe somebody could
building out
build
on Tenny
something
Mountain, Neil?
overnight.
Build us a.
Just Mary Ann asked a question the other night with regards to economic development, and I don't know if anybody saw the article with regards to Plymouth State University and the work they did in Berlin and Gorham with regards to what they call their crash projects. And in meeting with Marlon today, I brought that up and asked him, what possibly could you do for the town of Plymouth? I said, what about economic development? What about a Main Street master plan? So he's taken that back, and our hope is that they would engage us with a economic development project, which would bring back anywhere from 5 to 7 recommendations to the town on how to attract businesses, how to not compensate businesses for coming into town, but how can we make it a viable solution for them to come into Plymouth. So it's something that I'll be working on the university with, that whomever from the board would like to be involved in that committee, we'll move forward with that.
It's great.
Yeah,
Kind
that's
of
awesome.
chatted with Marlon as well, and I guess his point of view was like, don't know why we haven't been asked. So,
Well, that's just it. They did a presentation on December 8th at Lamson Library on what they did up there. And those students, both from their marketing, their legal, and their planning programs, came back with an amazing plan that offered 10 solutions to what they could do with that old mill property and the lagoons up there, and was presented very, very nicely. So I think we would be missing out on a great opportunity if we didn't engage them and try to come up with something moving forward.
Charity begins at home.
And like they said, all we have to do is be asked. So
Keep
I
that in
think
mind.
it's,
Yeah.
you know, to strengthen the partnership, to strengthen the community relationship with them, I think it's a great endeavor for us to embark on.
yes.
So the next section we talk about is capital machinery, vehicles, and equipment. As Scott and I were looking through this today, this says payment 2 of 5 for the fire truck line 711. We actually have not made a payment on this truck. The truck is not ready. It's still being worked on. Our first payment is not due until July of
23.
Therefore, we believe that we could take the proposed 157,641 out of the 23-24 budget, because we already have the money in the current year.
We have the money in the current year, we'll just transfer that to capital reserve and,
We'll just hold it,
or just hold it.
encumber it,
Yeah.
pay it in July.
Oh, because we can encumber it.
It's a big chunk of
Perfect.
money.
So we can actually make that, we're pretty excited, hoping to make that 0.
That's great.
Sweet.
Library Foundation Technology, isn't any. I don't know what that F is in there, but it doesn't belong in there. Everything else, I believe, was according to the CIP. Until you get down to,
You're on page 17, Ian.
oh, I am on page 17, sorry. We had, Scott, you've had a conversation with the town clerk. She has brought to the attention that we need to get new voting booths. She has given us a quote, so we're asking for that line that says 6,000 for the cargo trailer. That's gonna say cargo trailer and voting booths. That line will go up to 12,570 total.
Based on how broken those voting booths are,
She has,
100% support.
well, hopefully with that trailer, it will be a better storage in the future, for sure.
Yep.
And Robert with the parks is willing to take that utility trailer and modify the inside so it will store it properly, so we won't see damages of them coming in and out of the basement over the years.
The biggest issue is the ones that we had, putting them together and taking them apart.
Aluminum, yep.
They were half the time they got broken just putting them together and taking them apart.
I agree.
They were bad.
At some point, we're gonna have to consider buying a new voting machine.
Yeah.
Yep.
Actually,
Voting machine, is that what you said?
Yeah.
New voting machine.
I
yeah.
thought we put voting machine in the CIP plan.
I don't recall seeing it as a
You can check
current.
that flyer list at the very end first to see
it
if
might
it's in
be.
that, like, hey, we're pretty sure this is coming. If not, we should add it there.
It is not there.
The good news is our current machine just got recertified, so
It's good.
I'm sure it'll last us a few years anyway.
Good for another wing ding, huh?
And it worked well in the most recent
Yeah.
election.
So then we talk
We're
about
folding
the
things differently.
fire department C2. After considering the equipment that the fire department currently has for command vehicles and looking at the CIP, we believe that the 75,000 that's listed there should actually be listed as 60,000. Okay. So there'll be an adjustment there.
Okay.
And then we did not see in the transfer to capital reserves, we did not see the highway storage building for Hitchners for 30,000, so we took that out. And we did not see the additional fire department support vehicles for capital reserve for 60, so we took that out. So then we go down to the highway
And-
heavy,
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
sorry, highway heavy equipment. As we discovered earlier, we should be making that a 0. We believe that the other 2 or 3 lines that are in there are as being recommended by the CIP. And we took out Emerson Street as well. So we've made some significant changes, but we don't have a final number tonight in front of you.
We could have been editing this.
Well, what are you doing there?
I don't have permission to edit.
I know.
We will have final numbers for you on January
Yes,
17th. with
that's
a
right.
Prepared document.
It's over half.
Is it?
Yeah,
Half
it's
of what
over
we-
half, because 250 for Emerson, 100 for highway, and then another 15, so that's 315. Oh, I guess not quite
Plus the
half.
115 for the fire truck.
315 plus 157.
for the fire
150,
truck.
yeah, so,
That's a different line, but yeah,
So what's that?
it's a lot.
The cut.
there have been significant change. So I think as Scott has indicated, that we will have everything ready to come back to the board on the 17th. We'll try to have it ready before the first meeting of the, what is it, 9th? The first meeting in June. So that you'll have a chance to look through it. And then just a quick meeting on the 17th in preparation for the meeting on the 23rd.
Okay.
Okay.
What time's that public meeting?
The 23rd starts at, actually, the meeting starts at 5.
5 p.m.?
There's a 5:15 public hearing, a 5:30 public hearing, there's a 5:45 public hearing.
For the different ones?
So 17th would be 5 o'clock?
Yes.
2 bonds,
Oh, yeah, the 1.8
5:15,
million.
1.8, and then the solar array,
Yeah, I saw those.
and then the regular budget.
Okay, all right, cool.
It'll be a busy night.
All
You're going home.
Thank you for
Night,
coming.
Amy.
right. Thank you, guys. I know, it's disappointing that I'm the only one here.
Well,
Public.
You know?
It's just a work
Still in-
session.
still
I
in
know,
work
it's just a work
mode,
session, but it's still important.
It is very important, you're right.
and to
I'm sure
last,
there'll be more people.
the next, I think the school board overlaps with our budget meeting.
Our school board meeting's on the 9th.
Yep, it's a selectmen's meeting night.
Selectmen's
Because
is-
we had to move it because
Yep.
But
Thank
you
you, guys.
record it, right? So we can always watch it later.
we can't record it because they're coming here.
Oh.
Oh, that's right.
Who's coming where?
Because it's
PVC.
the same
Oh,
time.
because PVTV will be here, not there.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
all right,
Yeah, actually, too, so there's only 2 of us.
yeah.
Wow.
That's fair.
So we'll just send Sarah instead, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So we'll be bringing back our next proposal. Is there a number that the board is shooting for?
Well, I'll say that $3.67 is way too high, which is what is on the sheet right now. Obviously, it looks like we
Chopped it down some.
took $1 off that already, which is good, but
Well, especially considering that if you add in what the elementary school is doing.
we know the elementary school is going to bring.
I'm glad I'm not running for
$1.30.
re-election.
It's $1.40.
$1.30, $1.40, when you add
Let's
it to
quit- let's not
$3
quibble,
and
yeah.
change, without knowing what the high school's going to do. You could be looking at $5 a thousand more. But the good news is they'll do a reassessment next year.
Do the reevaluation starting in April.
It'll all go
It'll
down.
make me feel better that we're paying more taxes.
Rate
I
will
know.
go down, but your.
The rate will go down, but you still
Will go
stay
up.
the same
Been there
much.
so many
I mean,
times.
in an initial report from the assessor and looking at the median increase in value, is that houses are selling for about 65% more than they're assessed at today.
Residentials, yep.
That's a single-family home. Condos is even more than that.
All right, keep raising that prime rate.
I got a customer that paid $1 million for his house up on Wedgeside Lane.
Yeah, unfortunately, despite that reducing the tax rate, it still doesn't reduce the cost.
No, I know.
At all.
I got
Somebody
an-
actually told
Money,
me.
money.
Oh, yeah, well, you'll do a
No one-
reassessment, and then the value, the assessed rate will go down. It's like,
top of Old
no,
Bridge.
that doesn't, well, yes, the assessed rate will go down, but you're still gonna be paying just as much, so what does it matter?
I believe Ann told me that once, but
And what does it do to the real estate market?
yeah, so now's the time to sell, right?
No, admittedly, it helps the real estate market
Yeah.
to have the assessed value go down. Because when they're comparing us to another town, they're looking at the
Yeah.
tax rate to purchase price.
Zach, I have a couple documents here that, if the board wouldn't mind signing. One is a land use change tax for the Francis property on Texas Hill Road.
Oh, yeah.
And the second is the ambulance agreement with the town of Bridgewater. That was brought down today.
Ambulance?
What are they,
What's
Murray?
that?
Ambulance?
Ambulance contract, I'm sorry. Which the Board of Selectmen in Bridgewater have already signed.
They're gonna pay us more, right?
What's that?
They're gonna pay us more, right?
Right.
Scott, we'll take copies of those before they,
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
So Scott, you started the pilot discussions, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Yes.
he's had some good successes
Yeah.
already.
So our rates might go up, but will taxes go down?
I mean,
It would have to be a lot.
I had another call with Midstate, which was very positive. And I'm meeting with them again on Wednesday. So.
Good.
Good luck.
And Lakes Region Mental Health on Thursday. And then I'll move on to the, to the next ones that I have on the list.
Yeah, I mean, those are going to be your bigger hitters.
Yeah.
Right.
You start to look at things like Pemi Youth, and that's just, they're so small in the scheme of things.
No. I mean, my target, based on our conversations previously, was the top 25 right now. And trying to get through all of those within a 6-month period. And at least open a dialogue and have a conversation with them.
Who? Yeah, I'd love to see that list at some point. Are
Yep.
and sort of the dollar amounts that are there.
Here you go.
Thanks, sir.
And right now, Scott, they're basically just paying what
0.
they think, the
Bridgewater.
ones that you've met with, they're willing to pay what they
Bridgewater
think.
new.
They're willing to pay with what RSA 72, which governs those payments for a nonprofit tax exempt. So, for example, the one out on Fairgrounds Road, they can pay based on their valuation, or they can pay 10% of their net income. They chose to pay 10% of their net income, which is about a $3,000 difference between the two. The net income was $3,000 less than what their valuation is. But they're making payment within the RSA that guides that.
Okay. I didn't know there was
Not
one.
what they want to pay, but it's what guides them. And I mean, there's some facilities that we're looking at is the entire facility nonprofit tax exempt, or is there for-profit portion within that facility? And I'm working with the assessors to identify those pieces in those different buildings. Because that makes a difference as well, because they should be paying taxes on that. And I have been meeting, I think I have 3 more meetings with individual department heads. I have a meeting with the fire department tomorrow, I have a meeting with Dan next week, and I have a meeting with Joe. And we have been establishing their strategic priorities, and we'll be meeting with them on a quarterly basis individually to be able to talk about their budget forecasting of where they are, as well as what progress they've made on their strategic priorities. And we've got some other things that we'll bring to you on January 9th that are exciting with operational efficiency, so.
It's an exciting little tease.
That's all I'm gonna give you right now.
I get.
He wants to go home.
Maybe I'll actually show
birthday.
up on time to that meeting.
Zach, did you know today was Scott's birthday?
It did not.
Okay, he does now. You
Did,
missed it.
Birthday
You were
on
late,
Facebook.
so you didn't get to sing.
Did everybody sing to him?
Yeah, everybody did.
Oh, Bill did first thing this morning.
You owe. Go ahead.
I owe him a song.
Zach, you don't need to.
Yeah.
I don't think there was much risk of it.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. We'll talk to
Yes.
you guys.
You too. Enjoy the kids.
Yeah.
You know,